Okay, well, most of you know the association of the numbers with the 10 spiritual bodies. What I don't do is like some kind of prophecy. You need to know that. If you're expecting a prophecy, you'll be disappointed. Rather, my approach is every year as the number changes, then we have a chance to just pause and reflect on those particular qualities of that numbers and spend the year kind of working with those numbers. And it's a cycle that goes on. Every 9 years we go back to the same number. So year by year we can refine our own relationship to the 10 spiritual bodies and the virtues and the qualities that go with it. Every year we have a change of number. So just like you map out your birthday and you put all the numbers of your birthday on there. So every year, obviously, there's a collective agreement that there's a number change, and the number is a vibration. Annual cycle is a natural cycle of the earth around the sun. And what do we do in the annual cycle? We plant a seed, and then we get the harvest. So perhaps that's one reason why people make New Year resolutions, the idea of planting one seed and then letting it unfold through the year. So the first thing that changes is number 3, and then that has impact on other things, of course. And we'll call that number, the unit number of each year, is like like the seed, really. So that's the impulse of the year, or we might also call it the trigger number for any change that may come this year. 3 is positive mind, is also action, and is visibility. The total number of the year, when you add it up, 2 plus 2 plus 3 gives 7. So 3 and 7 is an interesting combination because it adds up to 10. And it's, I call it an axis, the front and back axis. 7 is the platform of observation, the one who's looking. And 3 is the three-dimensional world, and that is what is seen, what we see. Action makes you visible. And so this is an interesting combination of the seer and the seen this year. Example number 3 is the virtue of equality. To include yourself, the lower numbers are more personal. So number 3, include myself in God, include myself, put me in the picture. And then from the 7, see all as equal, see God in all. And 7 is forgiveness. We'll talk more about that in a little while. So this is a year to give focus to those qualities of equality and forgiveness. Positive mind is also to do with affirmations. And 7 can be to do with protection, but also control. So I'm putting this together, these different qualities. Positive mind, affirmations, control, watching, watcher, who's watching, who's watched, how are we watched? We're watching, we're all on the screen, watching. At the same time, this camera is watching me. So we've got this, we know already that this is going on, more and more cameras in the world, on all kind of levels, more watching going on, more people watching, more people being watched. So this year, that qualities become kind of highlighted, or augmented, exaggerated, you could say. Number 3, positive mind and affirmations and control systems. And what I've been realizing over the last years is how much this world of artificial intelligence is kind of taking over the positive mind. Is doing your affirmations for you. You click on something on your screen and very quickly the international cybernet artificial intelligence world, the mind field, picks up on that information, data mining, data collecting, and then it wants to affirm whatever you clicked, okay? Because that's what the positive mind does. Positive mind just goes, yes, let me add to that. Let me help you out. So if from your subconscious and negative mind an old memory comes to the surface, oh yeah, that's right, I'm not able to do that, I'm a failure, I'm not worthy. Your positive mind, it just goes, oh yes, okay then, let me help you. Positive mind is the busy mind of your three minds, and it's the helper mind. But it doesn't take any into account, it's not discerning. It doesn't stop and say, oh, whoa, whoa, wait a minute, you don't want me to affirm that. It will just affirm whatever you put in front of it. And so that's what artificial intelligence is doing. You click on a picture of some kind or another, and what's going to happen is the meta universe, whatever, is going to go, yes, yes, I affirm that for you. I will elaborate that for you. I will reinforce that for you. I will help you do more of that. So, this is a year, I would say, this is a year to reclaim your positive mind. Take it back into your own possession. Don't let the artificial intelligence system do your affirmations for you. Don't even let your friends and neighbors and family do your affirmation for you. Don't leave your positive mind on automatic. Don't let your positive mind just affirm all whatever is coming up from your history, because that's what it's already been doing for decades. You have to engage yourself. You have to apply this affirmation mind. You have to tell it, this is the deal. This is my affirmation. Now, help me with that. Affirm that for me. Expand and elaborate on that. To the extent that people are lazy, which is to quite a big extent really, and automatic and influenced by the collective mind field, then basically we are subjected to whatever the media, social media system affirms for us. It's watching you. You click here, you click there, and it goes, yes, yes, yes. And then everything else you're blind to. You don't see and hear the other information. You will only get in your little screen information that reinforces whatever is your habit, your click habit. That's been building up already, of course, for a long time, since the entire advertising industry started 100 years ago or more. But I would say this year is definitely a year to pay attention to that. False information. Yeah. Storytelling is very easy now. This whole system of data collecting has more or less reached its stage of mastery, where it can decide the story that it wants to tell you, and it is able to do that in a very clever way, where you will be absolutely convinced of the narrative that comes to you through whichever channel you happen to tune into. Some people, of course, have been learning just to switch off, switch off, switch off. Don't believe anything you see or hear on the media. Don't even get into it in the first place. Or the other way is, if you're going to listen, if you're going to start looking, then look much wider. Number 7 is the spectrum, like 7 colors on the rainbow. How wide is your spectrum? Are you willing, able, and ready to also listen to that voice, and then even that voice, and even wider, and like all the whole range? Not to believe any of it. That's not wise at all. Don't believe anything, but just, oh really? That's what they say? Oh really? That's what they say? Thank you. We won't go into details now, but the decision about what you finally decide is true or not true has to come from your neutral mind, which requires, first of all, the negative mind, which works on eliminate to illuminate. Okay, see it all, and then go, not this, not that, not this, not that, and then you affirm. Neutral has to decide. Okay, what else can we say about this? I think that's enough about the affirmation element of number 3, but this is the big trigger point, as I've said, for this year. Then 23 together gives you 5. 5 physical bodies, so that's an interesting combination of 3's, Nabi, and action. Something is really only affirmed when you act it out, when you do it. Action counts. I say, oh yes, let's have dinner. But if I don't take action and go to the kitchen and get the vegetables and start chopping, there's no dinner. So any affirmation has no real value unless you act upon it. And to act upon it, you must engage your physical body. Then spiritual bodies. So the number 5 is the physical body, but the physical body as a spiritual body. Meaning of the spiritual bodies means they are there to serve your spirit. Beyond the gunas, deeper than your tattvas, your emotional dimension, deeper than your chakras, which is your psychological dimension. Behind all of that is your 10 spiritual bodies. Physical body as a spiritual body, as a temple of your spirit. Quality is sacrifice. In some way, your body is always sacrificing itself. You don't have the body today that you had yesterday, and tomorrow you won't have the same. So it's always in a transformation. But again, it's just happening by chance, by circumstance, by forces of nature. So that's not a virtue. What makes it a virtue is that I choose what I serve with it. What am I sacrificing, and for the sake of what? So that's one of the themes of number 5. When we want something to change, we have to do something different. We need to act different, speak different, 5 is also sound, and think different. Otherwise, nothing changes. So 5 is very much about that. What's changing? So it's a year of change and exchange. 5 is also paradox. And particularly because of the 3 and 7, this paradox of the seer who's watching and then who's watched becomes conscious of the one who's watching. So now the one who's watched is now the watcher and seeing, and now the seer is also seen. So this is interesting, this kind of exposure of the control system. The one who's controlled can actually become the controller of the one who was controlling. An example is the victim. Over the last years, the condition of the victim has been very highlighted. Equality, respect, inclusion, and seeing those who have been unseen. And that can be something very important, very beautiful. Finally I'm seen. Finally I feel understood. That's a big theme, which has been building up in the last decade or so, and it becomes very highlighted now. It reaches some kind of extreme peak. But when things reach their extreme, they also reverse. So the one who was controlled, rejected, not seen, now gets very, very seen. But what happens is now the victim actually commands the stage. The victim commands the stage. What that means is now the victim becomes the controller. Well, you might know a little bit about that triangle. What we call it, the perpetrator and the victim and the rescuer. Yeah, that little triangle is number 3. Interesting, often the way we draw the number 7 also got a kind of angle to it. So this is an interesting year to look at that triangle and how sometimes the rescuer also becomes the perpetrator and the victim becomes the rescuer, and they all start shape-changing. Who's actually who here? Who's playing which role in this game? Because it is a game. Another reversal. Number 3 is Guru Amadas. Some of you might know his story, he third Guru, and how he took care of the marginalized, the people on the margins of society, the hopeless ones. So what happens is sometimes in a society, the marginalized becomes more and more and more. And there's social research about this. When the marginalized reaches 70% of society, there's a switch, there's a revolution. And the marginalized suddenly becomes the majority and takes over the control. So that can happen in small scale in an organization, maybe. It might happen in a government. It might happen in other levels, where the minority will become the majority and the majority will become the minority. The controlled become the controllers and the controllers become the control. These are just examples, okay, of that paradoxical inversion that can happen. And of course, if the numbers were 2 and 8, we would use different language of which kind of paradox, which kind of reversal we might see. But this year, the reversal that we may watch out for is the reversals of the 3 and the 7. 7 is an angle. When you have a vertical line and you're here, this would be 1 and 9, and you're in the master position, and then you see 360 degrees. 3 and 6 is 9. This is this point. But 7 is an angle. And there's, of course, 360 different angles. So everybody's busy with their angle, how I see it, my point of view, my position. Big challenge of this year. 3 and 7 is 10. Can I go all the way around the circle? It's just another way of saying the whole spectrum. Am I available to see from every angle? Or are people going to become increasingly stuck on their angle? 7. 7 has many qualities to it. So, some things we've said about fact and fiction. See how storytelling. Can I really see what is? Or am I searching for only what I want to see? Because when we have a certain habit already, then we only ask questions that help us to get the affirmation of what we already believe. We only look for evidence that supports and proves my current belief system. That would be one of the karmic expressions of the year. Or can I step back instead of seeking? Because seeking tends to blind you. Can I move into seeing? Move back. If we think of the 10 again, 3 and 7, can I include all in that picture? So I need to go more back, more back. See what I've not been seeing. Understand what I have not understood. Not through analysis, not through trying to rationalize, but actually by the quality of seeing itself. Yeah. The Dharma of the 7, to be the witness. Just see what is. Forgiveness or revenge. That's the big virtue of number 7. Nirver in the Bull Mantra. Nirver, no enemy. Nirver is an expression of the divine, right? We're saying God is Ekonkar, Satanam, Kartapurak, Nirbhav, no fear, Nirver, no enemy, Akal, Murit, infinite, Ajuni, unborn. No enemy. This is very telling. This means that God is not my enemy, and God does not consider me an enemy to God. It is impossible to be an enemy to God. Even if I'm an atheist or whatever else I might be, a non-believer, whatever, it's impossible to be enemy of God. What it also means, God is not my enemy. I can hate God as much as I like. I can be as angry to God as anything, but it doesn't do anything to God. It has no impact or effect because God has no enemy. But turn that around, personalize that. God is not my enemy. God is not against me. What is the karma 3? The karma goes into the victim and says, why me? Why me? As if God has singled you out, isolated you and projected on you punishment, and you are the enemy. We can take this further. God is not only not my enemy, but if God is not my enemy, it also means God is for me. God is not against me, God is for me. It's a challenge for your mind, to turn this around and say, everything is for me, everything. Whatever is happening right now in my life is for me. It's laid out, it's set out for me. Can I see it in that light? Can I dare to understand it in that way? I don't yet know why. Something about number 7 is we have to say understanding comes later. We want to understand before, but it mostly doesn't work like that. Understanding it puts you back into searching. But why? Stop that. Dare to say, okay, it's for me. I don't yet get it, but I'm going to see it in that light. In that way, you're going to make a window within which understanding will come to you. When you try to go and get the understanding, it'll run away from you. When you can move back to be the witness, understanding is going to come to you. Okay. Revenge, non-forgiveness implies revenge. But actually, and it's been said by others, this is not a unique thought. Actually, the one who's not forgiving is suffering much more than the one you're not forgiving. It becomes your own prison. quality of 7, 2 plus 2 plus 3 is 7, is protection or imprisoning. And when we're young, we set up mechanisms because of our various traumas to protect ourselves. But sooner or later, our protection suffocates us. Another layer, another layer, another layer, another layer, and now I'm squeezed into a smaller and smaller place. I am imprisoned. Now I think this year we're going to see more of these control mechanisms. You know what I mean? Like, currency controls, economic controls, supply controls, internet controls, what else? Military controls. All kinds of different control systems are coming in. Energy controls. The whole thing is, there's a whole system being set up for your own good, for your own protection. But whatever is set up for your own protection is also set up to imprison you. It's not the time or place to say more about that, but that's a theme to reflect upon through this year and to observe very carefully. Number 3 can be the rebel. Fire element, third element is fire. Like angry teenager, wants to break out of the rules. I've had enough of the parental controls and I'm angry. But you don't get out that easy or that quickly. So that's why I have a little expression for myself this year, is that, how do you put it, rebellion is not revolution. But we need a rebellion to warm up to a revolution. So it's good if you ask yourself, what is my rebellion this year? If you have, what's the opposite of rebellion? We call compliance. Where is my compliance? Number 3, that's agreement. I agree. But 3, if you go with the sounds of the chakras of the 3rd and the 2nd and the 1st chakra, Ra, number 3, Ba, number 2, Baba or Vava, and number 1, La, 1st chakra, La. So when you go down, you go rebel. But like Kundalini, you have to go down to go up. So you have to deconstruct in order to reconstruct. So that's an interesting theme also for this year. What am I deconstructing in order to reconstruct? See what happens there. See what you can do with it. I remind you, this is not meant to be any prophecy, just themes to reflect upon this year. What is my protection and how much is my protection a prison and how much is this? And I'm not saying it's right or wrong or good or bad here, because we have to create a cocoon in order to produce something inside of that cocoon, which then finally rebels and breaks out and flies free. Next year, 24 is a 6, and that's the butterfly moment. Well, that's the number 6. This year is just getting hot. Are you hot enough? Is it kind of heating up enough for you to want to break out of this cocoon? So yeah, we could say things are going to get hot this year as well. More fire, more heat, more restriction until you feel angry enough. But be very careful with anger. Anger is a good sign in the one way, like something's, you're animated inside of you. That's good. But sometimes we destroy the things that we don't need to destroy. Sometimes we just shout out, but nothing changes. I see people go out on the street and wave placards and burn cars and break shop windows and steal all the clothes and everything. But in the end, nothing changes. So this needs to be taken into deep consideration. Since I was young, I've been on the streets with people campaigning about that, campaigning about this, facing off with the police about this and that, whatever, tear gas being thrown into the crowd. And so little has changed. I'm talking about way, way back into the 70s. And all those different moments of rebellion that have come up. And some things have not fundamentally changed. So I do ask myself, what will it take? But I think there's something in that majority-minority shift of the axis, and the scales are going to change through this year, and we'll see if we make it to a revolution or not. Yeah. 3 and 7 is also about space. 2 and 8 is time. 4 and 6 is the moment. But that's next year, the moment. 3 and 7, space. Quality of your space, my space. Which also can be territory and boundaries. Again, boundaries can become very psychological, controlling, manipulating. It can also be respect of space. But it could also be the beginning of recognizing the stupidity of this is my border and this is your border and you have to have a passport to come here and there. All that kind of... So space and boundaries and borders are going to be, let's put it paradoxically, yeah, they're going to be very asserted. But of course, the more they're asserted, the more they're going to be challenged as well. So that's another thing to be paying attention to. Asserting borders and challenging borders. Yes, we know there's been a warm-up to that already in some parts of the world, but a lot more of that to come. Where do we draw the line? Permit and license. Yeah, where is the permit? Where is the permission? And where is the license? Number 7. Do I permit me, or am I waiting for permission from others? Do the eyes of the others tell me, it's okay, you can, come on, yes. Why am I waiting for the eyes of others to tell me it's okay? So that's a challenge, to personalize that. What do I permit me and what do I not permit me? It's linked to borders, boundaries, license, and limit. What is my limit and what is my license? These are themes of the year. 7, we call platform of elevation. Karmically, that means superiority. I sit on my superior position and I watch and judge and that kind of thing, passing judgment. In order not to do that, people can foolishly say, oh, I don't judge, and, trying to avoid the superiority becomes another kind of superiority. I'm better than them because I don't judge. It's a kind of nonsense. It's a lie. So, two things to say about that. There's nothing wrong with elevation. But what kind of elevation? Elevate everyone. Lift everyone up out of the mud. There's no lotus flower if we don't elevate. But that doesn't mean deny the roots, cut off the roots. Of course not. If the tree doesn't reach up to the sky, there'll be no flowers and there'll be no fruit. Elevation. But elevation of a tree has a strong trunk, strong spine, and strong roots. So don't make elevation wrong. Don't be too busy of looking at others and say, oh, they're bypassing and they're superior and they're this and they're that. And look at you, look at you, look at you. What are you doing? Where is your elevation? What's the quality of your elevation? Rather than avoid elevation or deny or accuse or judge others' elevation or be jealous of or something like that. Now, judgment is a faculty. Some of you are familiar with my comment about this. I use this faculty all the time. I'm judging. I'm taking measure of the time. I'll finish up in a moment. I'm taking judgment of the climate. Shall I put on my heater? Taking judgment of, am I thirsty? Shall I drink more tea? There's a constant evaluation of your systems, of your environment, and then action. Number 3, 7 and 3 go together. I make judgment and I make action. How far am I from the traffic light? How much food to put on my plate? And on and on and on. It's a faculty. It's a very powerful faculty. It's a faculty that we surely should develop and refine and use well. So that would be a great theme this year. How is my faculty of judgment? It means measure. Taking a measure of the situation so that I can take appropriate action. The more I'm a witness, the more this faculty can work well. When I'm searching, I'm blind to something, I go charging in with my action, and I didn't see something. And then we crash. Why? Isn't it like that? It's easy to watch other. Oh, look what he's doing. He's going to crash. I told you, look. He's blind. Easy to point that on the other, right? But can you see yourself? Can you have a good measure of yourself? In all kind of ways. Don't be busy with others' eyes on you. Learn to have a good measure of yourself. And you'll be occupied with that you'll have no time or space to pass judgment on anybody else. And it also implies that you have no time or space to worry about other people's judgment about you. Neither you are passing the judgment, nor you are occupied with their judgment. You take a good measure of yourself. This would be very, very good self-training for the year. Okay, we'll finish up. So 7 is the aura, magnetic field, and the mind field, and the Maya field. So be very careful. Eyes tell lies. Nothing is what it seems. Be very attentive to that. See everything, but believe nothing. Work on your aura, your magnetic field. Do Kriyas for that. Kriyas for, there's a little meditation for self-animosity. You have to overcome self-animosity. Things like that. Nabi is number 3. So working with the navel and your aura and the mantra Har. So the mantra I did on New Year's Eve was Har, 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 Hare. So there are several meditations using this mantra, like 7 times Har, 1 time Hari or Hare. And you can look for these kind of meditations. Work with the 3 and 7 through the year. Build up your own field. Electromagnetic field. There's a lot of these electromagnetic forces going on the planet, more and more, popping up everywhere. So how much is that controlling our mind state? So you want to be able to create your own field. I remember a few years ago at the yoga festival, somebody said something about, oh, what do you think about this? We're moving to the next G number. And I said, well, you should move to the next G number. If they're doing 5G, you need to do 6G. Upgrade yourself. Don't wait for them, that upgrade to impact upon you. You need to do your upgrade. Don't be so occupied about how the environment is impacting you. Ask yourself, how are you impacting your environment? Many of you are involved as teachers or in teacher training. What is that all about? Is learning not just to not be affected by your world, but to impact the world around you. Have an impact. Your thoughts, number 7, your word, number 5, and your action, number 3. It counts. Satnam.